And we're being joined now by Democratic Congressman Adam Smith of Washington State. He's the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, as we've been reporting, the U.S. has been helping Israel defensively in shooting down those incoming missiles from Iran. Are you concerned at all about the U.S. getting pulled further into this conflict if it becomes wider?
Yes, I think that's one of the big concerns here. Now, I agree. We need to support Israel. Iran had pushed really close to having a nuclear weapon, and that was an existential threat to Israel. Have to understand that Israel could not allow that to happen. And I think providing defensive support as we have a lot of U.S. citizens in Israel. So we're protecting U.S. citizens as well as Israel in that. But we have to be really careful not to get dragged into a war with Iran. We have a lot of U.S. military personnel in Iraq, in Syria, in the UAE, in Qatar and Bahrain that would be at risk if we were in a direct conflict with Iran. So we can support Israel. We have to avoid getting into a direct conflict with Iran.
Military personnel as well as military assets. Now, Israel has said that this was a preemptive strike, and yet the argument's being made that Israel's actions were done in self-defense. What's your view on that explanation?
That's semantics for the most part. I think they both sort of mean the same thing. It's both preemptive and in self-defense. Look, Iran, ever since the Islamic Republic took over, a cornerstone of Iranian existence has been the destruction of Israel. And I think we lose track sometimes of how ridiculous that is. If Iran didn't want this, they could have focused on taking care of the Iranian people, building an economy, building a prosperous society. Instead, they've focused on this ridiculous obsession with the destruction of Israel. And in so doing, they've undermined governments in Syria and Lebanon and Yemen. They have backed various proxy forces, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, a number of different Shia militia groups in Iraq, all that are destabilizing governments around them. Israel could not stand for that. I mean, imagine if we had a country whose entire mission in life was the destruction of the United States. You have to deal with that. So Iran brought this on themselves by focusing on the destruction of Israel at the expense of their own people, their own economy, and their own well-being.
Now, President Trump had previously warned Israel not to strike Iran, but today he called the strikes excellent. What do you make of this change in tone?
Well, look, one point that I want to make, and this is not the most important point, I will agree, but President Trump has been running around saying, gosh, if I was president, wars wouldn't happen. His strong leadership would stop all of this. That was always patently ridiculous, saying, Putin wouldn't have invaded Ukraine, the war in Gaza wouldn't have started. These are complicated, difficult issues. And Trump's, empty bragging and bluster about how his presence magically solves problems was always ridiculous. But I think this drives home that point. He could not stop the conflict between Iran and Israel any more than Joe Biden could stop the conflict between Israel and Hamas. So I think right now President Trump's a little confused. He could not simply bend the world to his will. He didn't want this war. He does not support Iran, and he wants to support Israel. But that is a tough line to walk, as administration after administration over the course of decades has found out.
Well, Congressman Adam Smith, we thank you for your time and your insights.
Thanks for the chance.